about the revolution there, and we just weren't sure, and we just kept thinking about it. So we go to Costa Rica, had a good trip, came home, we sat down on a Sunday morning, we opened our worship folder the first Sunday back, and it's a Colorado district trip to Nicaragua. We couldn't even speak, we didn't have to say one word, we kind of elbowed each other. We felt like it was direction from God, and we followed that. We went, or I went probably very nervously, had never been on a trip, we didn't know anyone going, until we landed in Managua. We met people, and that was in 2010. And it's northern Nicaragua, close to the Honduran border, and we returned there 8 years in a row for about a half a month every year.
That was not a little nudge in the back, it was a hammer over the head. The next,
you can see them there.
Next slide shows, you can see the picture on the left, the Nazarene Church. I'm getting ahead of myself. First of all, this is at La Rioja. It's a little community out in the country in Nicaragua. People were meeting under a tree for church services there. So it became a natural place to be able to, the Nazarene Church was able to purchase that land. They put a well on it. The closest water for those people was a 2-mile walk to a river to pick up water and bring it back to the homes they lived in. So this well was a big deal for that community because it served not just the church, but the community. Picture on the right is of the church. This is what we encountered when we first visited there. The church had begun, they had begun building the church, and but it didn't have a floor or an altar, or none of the interior was finished in any way. So the work began. This is a picture of us mixing cement. We didn't have any cement mixer. There was no calling the ready mix and having to bring a truck full of cement out. So we mixed the cement. You just put a big pile of sand and gravel, and you'd shovel it from one place to the other, put the cement in with it, shovel it back to mix it all together, then put the water in, shovel it over here to make the cement and get it to the right consistency, and then shovel it into 5-gallon pails and take it over to where you wanted to pour the cement inside the building. And that was an all-day process. We would literally work 6 and 8 hours in a day just mixing that cement and hauling. All the water had to be hauled from the well in 5-gallon pails into the little barrels there, and that's how that work went. So it was really very hard work.
Each day after construction all day long, we'd travel to remote areas and do a vacation Bible school. And the turnout was always great. A lot of times it was just on the dirt, on the ground wherever we could. We'd bring some materials from the States and had Bible school every day. Excellent. The food project, to me, was a favorite thing that we did there. In Nicaragua, poverty, people earn about $1 to $2 a day. So we would we'd take baggies and donations, monetary donations from the US. We would buy food in bulk when we got there. We'd package it and have a package per family. People were so appreciative. But a story that sticks out in my mind is we bought cooking oil, just like, vegetable oil, and gave to people, and that was like gold. And an elderly man took that cooking oil, held it to his face as tears poured down his cheeks. We'll never forget that, and we treasure the food project. Also in the Nazarene Church, I love child sponsorship, and our church in Longmont, once we did it as an adult Sunday school class, and different people took turns paying, or it's, I didn't check recently, but probably about $30 a month. But when we were in Nicaragua, the very first year we met Raymar. He was about 9, and he had not been able to go to school for a few years because he couldn't afford a school uniform. They had to have a uniform. Since we were right there, we were able to purchase his uniform and start sponsoring him. We sponsored him until he aged out at age 18. But because of social media, we're able to be in touch with him all the time. When he was about 16, he lost his mom, the only parent in the home, and he was on his own. But we can reach out to him and send stuff every Christmas and every birthday. He's about 25, 26 now, and we've been able to be in touch with him always, constantly.
He's our kind of adopted kid. Excuse me. This is a picture of La Rioja today. We began with the main church building right here, and since then 5 other structures have been built. This has become the actual district center for northern Nicaragua. They recently held a district assembly there with many, many pastors from all over northern Nicaragua. The beautiful part of this is that we not only have these structures that make a compound there that's very valuable for meetings and so on, that many other churches, there's at least 6 other churches in small communities around this that have been built since we started working at La Rioja. Me? I have to keep going. After we had gone to Nicaragua many years, we had found a notice that there was going to be trips beginning to Panama. So we were able to enroll and go on our first trip to Panama. And this is a picture of our National Geographic moment. We went out to the Kuna Indigenous Peoples group there, and the Nazarene Church and other churches had been trying to establish a mission and a church in these villages for many, many years. And our Nazarene efforts actually got a church built at the Kuna village, and that was a very impactful scenario. You can see this is a thatched hut. It has wood or just dirt floors and a colorful garb of the native women there that had beaded leggings and very pretty fabrics to make their clothing from. This is Maximum Mission. Other than the hard work, like we saw in our Nicaragua trips where we had to mix cement and everything, Maximum Mission basically led our group, and it was more of a evangelistic type of trip where these young people together actually did all the work themselves. We just went along and enjoyed the time with them. They were a joyous group to work with as we went from our different areas from Panama City out into what they call the frontier of Panama. They were singing on the bus and drumming with empty pop bottles and singing responsive songs, and then they would work to prepare meals and just did everything, and we got to really enjoy that as a wonderful time.
In Panama, when we went to some of the more remote areas, we traveled by boat, by water. These were 2 large dugout canoes. And in the photo on the left, it looks like smiles, and to me it looks like sheer joy, but to be honest, I think it was like sheer terror, because before we got on the boat, first of all, we had way too many people. Then they told us there were crocodile-infested waters, and then we didn't have any life jackets. So it was a little nervous ride. And there we are getting off at the shore. Next slide. Just 2 more quick photos of that. The second boat had a leak, and they were bailing water the whole 2-hour boat trip. And you see water in the bottom of the boat when we arrived. Next.
VBS for this trip was done at the Kuna village. This is a little young toddler at the Kuna village on the left. And then on the right is a Panamanian. There's a village there that we had people come, and all the kids would enjoy the Vacation Bible School. These pictures show, this was in a suburb of Panama City, and it was done in a house. Maximum Mission prepared sandwiches, had gone out around the community and invited people over, and as you can see, we had a wonderful turnout. In the back of the picture here, you can see there's a large screen set up. That was going to be for the Jesus film. And the Jesus film was a big part of this trip and the people that were working on it. The Jesus film equipment was battery powered and solar generators to charge the batteries. And it was done in both the Kuna and the Spanish language. So the Kuna would be able to see the Jesus film. And I can remember that there was an older man that came to watch the Jesus film, and usually you didn't see many men. It was mostly all women and children at these villages and gatherings. And he watched it, but at the time that Jesus was crucified, he just became so angry. He was just so mad that someone as good as Jesus could be hurt like that. So it was a wonderful, I mean, it was quite an impactful time, and that happened other times and places as well.
Many of you have heard of Samaritan's Purse or Operation Christmas Child Shoe Boxes. You might have done them in your community or in your church. And I always assumed that everybody just got it at Christmas, because that's kind of what it is. But in remote locations, you get it when it arrives. So the photo on the left, we were in a remote area. We had spent the whole day there. We had had Bible school and Jesus film, and it was nighttime, and it was after the Jesus film. They passed out the boxes to all the kids, and they were just so joyous. Photo on the right is in a church in Panama City. So in a Sunday morning church service, the kids are pretty dressed up there and receiving their Christmas child boxes. Back in 2017, those boats I was showing you on the water, the Church of the Nazarene in Colorado District Project took funds raised from Children's VBS and purchased a boat for the outreach for the people there. I said the work in Panama to me was just filled with just energy and enthusiasm, and they have so many young people taking leadership roles, and it was a great model for all of us.
After our mission trips over the years, we decided that we'd like to be engaged in longer trips and be able to do a longer term effort in wherever we could, primarily thinking Central America. So we enrolled in our cross-cultural training that was required by Nazarene Missions International. And I better change the slide. Oh, no, that's the right slide. I'm sorry. Nazarene Mission Corps. So we went through the training and were assigned a coffee house in Portugal. Now, where did all this working witness and evangelist stuff end up being in a coffee shop in Portugal? We couldn't quite figure that out. But we decided to go, and we thought it'd be a great experience. For 3.5 months we were going to be there. Well, it was the day that COVID started being a problem. And we thought, oh, it's not so bad. It'll just be a little sickness, and it'll blow over, and we'll be fine. Well, the day we got there, Italy blew up. 2 days later, they canceled our mission. And we spent about 4 hours on the telephone trying to get the last flight out of Lisbon, Portugal to get home. And we just did. So we were able to come home. They met us at the airport in Newark with CDC, came on board the plane, took everybody's temperatures, and made us go home and quarantine for 2 weeks. So that was that. But it was a neat time. That you can see the kids in the coffee shop and the mission there. It would have been a great time, but cut short, unfortunately.
So then, we still were hoping for a little longer term mission, but we didn't really have anything in mind. And on February 22nd of 2022, I guess it is, we were just at home in the morning, had national news on, like CBS, NBC, I'm not sure what, and they were talking about the war that had broken out in Ukraine. And they showed the train station with all the strollers lined up. Many of you probably saw that same newscast or remember that train station. And Monty turns to me in the living room and said, well, we need to go. And I said, go where? To the war? I don't think we need to go to the war. But he really felt like we needed to go. And so I contacted a representative of the Eurasia region and said, are there opportunities for volunteers to go to be working at the border? And they said yes. And so we went for a month, May to the beginning of June, came home, and we felt strongly about going back, and we returned for the month of September to October.
Here is that broadcast that the news person was interviewing the people on the left, and they were at a bomb shelter in Kyiv, and they were talking about a pastor and his wife, and somehow I heard Nazarene pastor. And that's why I said to Renee, we got to go. there's Nazarenes over there. They need, if we can help, let's go help them. And so we ended up going on our trips. But later on, we decided, well, let's check this out, because we were actually going to use a little video clip in one of our presentations, and we went over it 3 times, and not once was a Nazarene in that broadcast. There was word Nazarene was never said. We got to Ukraine. Poland. This is a Nazarene pastor. He was the district supervisor, DS, I should say, for Ukraine. Now, if that isn't a God thing, and if that isn't a hammer over the head, I don't know what is. Next slide. All right, it's a little hard to see, but can you see? This is where the city we went to. How would you pronounce that? Przemysl or something like that? The actual correct pronunciation is Przemysl. So we were assigned to Przemysl, Poland. This is where the train station is. And that's located about this part right here in Poland, which is only about 5 kilometers, which is a little like less than 2.5 or 3 miles from the Ukraine border.
When we got there, during the day we were assigned some construction tasks. The Nazarene Church had not had a presence there before. So they had come in, had to rent buildings, and had to organize everything. So we just did some work during the day's construction work. Next slide. And then these are 2 of the buildings that are places they rented. Safe Space was right across the street from the train station. So if moms had little kids and you're trying to keep them corralled for hours in a little train station waiting room, they could go to this train station. There were toys, there was tea, there was room. The next one is called the Hub. That was like an office building, kind of coordinated volunteers coming through. And in fact, Monte ended up putting a shower and a bathroom into there. And then in the back room of it, we ended up putting some beds because we had to house some volunteers there as well.
While we were there, Nazarene pastors would get a special permit to cross the border because men weren't allowed to leave the country, but they could get a special permit. And Nazarene Compassionate Ministries provided a lot of food items that we're able to purchase and load into vans, because right as the war had begun, everything was disrupted. The whole supply chain for food and needed items was just not available. So we were able to help load these vans full of needed items. You can see the stack of boxes here on the left. Those are all the banana boxes with our crisis care kits that the Nazarene Church has been assembling and sending out to disaster areas all over the world, including in the United States. This is the Tesco Relief or Refugee Center. So people that were fleeing Ukraine needed a place to stay. You can see that's huge, big rows of cots and stuff. And these were a very large facility with big rooms. It was like a Costco, only Tesco there. And the names of the cities that they were going to be going to were above each room. So if they were having to go to, if they were going to Warsaw or Hamburg, Germany, or Prague, Czech Republic, those names were above those doors, and they knew they'd stay there for the night and then go to their destination the next day.
We really didn't know what we were going to do at the border. At first they said just construction and helping something with kids, but 3 days before we went, they called and said, we're going to also need you to work at the train station the evening to midnight shift. And we said, okay, even though we're usually in bed way before then, but we said we can do that. And our job there was to meet the Ukrainian trains. Many trains came, but we were just working with the Ukrainian trains coming or going. And every day our little badges are on the side. It was a big process. You had to register with the government every day, with the military. They wanted to see your passport, recorded your number every day. Put a band on our arm. We wore certain vests. You had to have the name of your organization that you were volunteering with, as well as languages spoken. For us, that was easy. We only spoke English. Even though it would have been beneficial to speak Russian or Ukrainian or Polish at the border, we didn't. And we did okay without that. You're done.
We still muddled through. This is a map of the train station. You can see here there were 5 railroad tracks that came in there. The top 2 were from the Ukraine trains that arrived there. Platform 5 is where all the action was. There was 25 steps down into a 100-yard tunnel that went underneath the other tracks, and then 25 steps up to go over to the train station where they could actually get a ticket. There was food at the World Central Kitchen. There were SIM cards for their phones. Most people, when they came into Poland, the phone didn't work because the SIM card wasn't the right data transfer to be able to call. And then, of course, they needed shelter for the night or to be able to just get to their train to go on to their next destination. So we had, so it was a big effort.
Just to carry luggage, pretty much, at helping people. As he mentioned, men were allowed to leave the train and all. So there'd be a mom and a grandma and maybe a baby and 3 little kids, and then carrying everything that they hoped to own or to keep. At the train station, there were no elevators, there were no escalators. It was pretty tricky, but I said in a way it was simple work too, just being the hands and feet of Jesus, just trying to meet needs, whatever people needed, we'd try to help. One story that sticks out in my mind is a lady came to the top of the platform, so like I said, many steps up, and she realized her suitcase was locked, and she didn't know it was a combination lock. She didn't know how to unlock it, and it was all she had. And she was in tears and just frantic. And Monte sat down on the ground with her and worked with, and he just set it all to 0, and it opened. And she started crying, and she just said, "This is the happiest day of my life." And she wanted to buy him coffee, but people were just so grateful just for a simple thing like carrying their luggage or getting them coffee or helping them. I guess I'm the next one. Okay, here's just a couple photos of volunteers. As I said, volunteers came from all over the world. Photo on the left is back. I realized there were people on there that were from Russia, from Croatia, from the U.S., and from India. And everybody just worked together and got along and just worked towards a common goal. And it was just, that part was just an amazing experience. Oh, okay. On this part, I said just even, it's amazing, even $1 or $2 like canoe. So the lady with the rain ponchos in the top, she's a Ukrainian for hours, and I'm like hours. And if they were outside, if it's pouring rain, you're just out in the elements. So the Nazarene Church, we bought rain ponchos, and then she would pass them out to the people. After their 2 or 3 hour wait, as they entered passport control, she would ask for the raincoat back. She would take them. She went to somebody's fence. It wasn't any Nazarene property. She'd hang them up, dry the coats, and then be able to bring them back and return the next day. Picture on the right, you see Monte just passing out bottles of water as these people are waiting. That time was in the heat.
Many people were going home while we were there, and in this picture, you see on the left, that's a small family group. There are about 5 or 6 people, but they're sitting on a mound of bags. They had 45 bags of food and stuff that they couldn't get because of the war to take back to their families. The picture on the right is a young woman that her children were with her. Right here, she has a little baby in her lap. She had been obviously traveling all day, just came to that point and saw the line, and just 2 other children with her. So Renee was able to go to World Central Kitchen and get food kits and bottled water for them to, and that was, that's a lot of what we did the whole time we were there at the train station, was to just give people a little bit of comfort and help as they go through a difficult time.
And this is just another photo showing all the lines of people, and it was lines like that every day, lining up to get a train. Sometimes trains are full, and they're like hours, and people would get on and be willing to stand for 12 hours. And a lot of the questions was, why would they go back? Why would they go back into a war? But money. Some had nowhere else to go and live, and some missed their families, their husbands, their dads, their grandpas, all there. They had been separated. So that's why the people were returning home. I know we are really out. I'm going to do our last part fast. He's not fast. This is in 3 minutes or less or something. Okay, go.
3 minutes or less. Well, I had to go to the Ukraine medical group, and we went in and we spent 2 weeks going to clinics in Kyiv, east of Odessa, and treating people that didn't get or weren't able to get medical care because of the war. I was a first-class pill counter there because I'm not a medical guy. I count pills. This is prescription medication that we purchased for the folks there. One of the big things was there's a church there, Light of the Nazarene Church in Vapanyorka, Ukraine. They had families living in the refugees. This one is no bigger than Yuma, Colorado. Had 100 families that were refugees into that town that they were helping and feeding. Picture is this truck full of equipment. They had storage area in this church that was able to accommodate the equipment and transfer it out and distribute it out to those that needed it in that village. This is a home that was destroyed. We have artillery shell. This is a family that had everything stolen by the Russians, and one of their sons, there were 5 sons in the picture, one of them was by the Russians. Even though their house was intact, they still suffered and had a really difficult scenario. Okay.
And most recently, we returned to Poland about 10 months ago, and we just worked, I'll let you just look through. We worked in a national church. People speak so many languages, but it's an English-speaking church, evangelistic church. And then we went to the coffee house in Krakow, Poland, Poznan, written by a Nazarene. He passed away in his early 20s. And when we came home from this trip, and here, yeah, you can just go through the photos of it. When we came home, this is the beautiful coffee house. When we came home from this trip, Longmont was getting a new pastor, and it just happens to be the dad of that young man, and he is now a pastor in Longmont.
Well, I just want to say that our time here today has been a blessing. I hope you do as much as it has been for us. Our time in other countries was a blessing. Many people received the blessing of love, food, church, a little bit of help in a difficult time. It is a blessing to participate in local projects such as Movement 5280, Homeless Outreach, Gracia y Vida, Inner City Denver Church, the Navajo Project, Christmas time, and many others that are available. There is an endless stream of blessings by supporting the World Evangelism Fund through Faith Promise. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Oh, you're all right.
I woke up this morning.
Turn it off for a second.
Saw a world full of trouble. Now I thought, how do we ever get so far?
So let's. I'm just gonna leave this up here, and go ahead and put your Faith Promise cards face down. And I'm the only one that's gonna see them. We might be a counter here or there that might just know that that's what it is, and they're gonna pass it directly on to me. And I'll give you a total at the end of the month, what we've got for Faith Promise and how we can impact this world, starting right here with the love of Jesus. And so thank you so much for coming today. Monte and Renee will be out by the table out here. They've got some things that they've brought back with them, and if you have any questions, want to talk with them, that's great. Here in about 10 minutes or 15, however long it takes, We're going to go out to lunch up on the hill. If you want to join us for lunch, that'd be great, and you extend the conversation there. So God bless you as you go.
It's time for us to do something.
Also,
So tired of talking about how we all got hands and feet. It's easier to say than to be. Live like angels without free. We tell ourselves it's alright.
If he doesn't get one, I'll get one.